You do? It's because I'm on the desk.
Yeah, well. Hi, we are live. Kerry and Molly, as normal, monthly kind of Facebook Live.
That's Tracy's making us do.
So yeah, this week Kerry's been putting together a guide which we're gonna, I think, send out possibly as like an ebook, which is the small business's guide to contracts. So we just thought we'd chat you through some of that, really.
Yes. Oh, great.
I hope we're back.
What's it doing?
No idea.
It's the Wi-Fi.
Hopefully it's okay. I
Yeah,
don't
it's
know.
okay now.
Great. Right, in and out. Should we just carry on and see what
Yeah,
happens?
just see what happens. If you are watching, try and...
Tracy's watching.
Okay, Tracy. Can
Can you see us? Are we definitely working?
it keeps saying trying to recruit. Ooh.
Hello, Tracy.
Hello,
Is it
Tracy.
working?
Trying to reconnect. I don't. Yeah, but we won't be able to do it now.
Can see you. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's
So
see.
yeah. So as Molly said, breaking up a bit. Okay. Well, we'll just see what happens. I'm just working on kind of like a downloadable guide that is going to be made available to all small business owners that need to want to understand contracts a little bit more. The plan is to have like a page on each type of contract, and then so it's a little free guide, just for fun.
Yeah. So we'll go through kind of
What that's going to include.
every kind of every kind of contract that every business needs, or could possibly need. Not everyone needs every contract to start with, but as you grow, more and more contracts are needed. Just making sure you've got everything written down so you know exactly who does what and what happens if things go wrong, and hopefully you're protected against things going wrong.
Mm-hmm. So the first is terms and
Oh, let's reconnect.
Yeah, trying to reconnect. It's Luke now watching us. Luke and Tracy. So terms and conditions and the difference between that and what a traditional looking contract looks like, because they're not different. Effectively, that they're the same thing. They're still your contract, but there is always some confusion about which is which and what is what. I often hear businesses saying, "Oh, there was no contract," or "We don't tie people into contracts." The terminology is not quite right, so we're talking about exactly what it means for each of those. I also will touch on, what to include in those contracts, when it might be more advisable to have a traditional looking contract rather than just a standard set of terms and conditions, particularly for those that maybe are on a fixed term contract, a fixed term project, or there is going to be an agreement between what is being delivered. It's probably the biggest topic between terms and conditions, because we can talk about exactly what clauses need to cover in there as well. Some do's and don'ts. So we always say, do not steal from your competitors, or also we don't like to suggest that you use templates either. And then we move on to shareholder agreements and partnership agreements, because again there is a massive confusion over the two, and actually they are very different.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so partnership, you generally think I'm going to partnership with obviously my business partner, we're sort of setting up a business together, therefore it's a partnership. But then it turns out that they've spoken to an accountant and they've decided to go as a limited company, which means that they all own shares, which therefore means that they're not a simple partnership. There will be a shareholder, and therefore you need a slightly different agreement. So the guide will talk through what those different things are, and also what kind of things you need to add into those agreements, making sure obviously everyone knows who does what, how you get paid, what happens if there's a argument, what happens if people want to leave, all of those sorts of things will all be covered, and how you can best protect yourself against them.
It might mention if there's any insurance in place as well, like shareholder protection insurance. Also, what happens upon should, unfortunately, a shareholder die. Then we're going to talk about in the, do I call it a pamphlet or a leaflet or ebook? What
It's a guide.
A guide. When can we get this awesome guide? That's a great question, Tracy. I think you need to set me a deadline. You need to tell me when it needs to be available. So then we'll move on to subcontractors. Especially when you might start out, you're not going to look into employing people straight away, but you may need a helping hand. So it's really important here to make sure that you're setting out the relationship between you and the subcontractor. They might have their own terms, which is great, but it's unlikely unless they've spoken to us, of course. And so you need that subcontractor agreement, whether you call it a subby, whether you call it an associate, a consultant. There's lots of different names you can call them, but effectively it's the same thing. And it just lays out exactly what has been agreed. The fact that they are self-employed, that they're responsible for all their own tax and national insurance, that they don't get holiday pay, making it clear what their IR35 status is, and how you pay them.
Yeah, so it's basically all of the same kind of things as you might put in employment, but making sure obviously it's very clear that they're not employed, what their rights are and what's different about that. If it does turn out that you do want to move towards employment and that sort of thing, we can put you in the right place and spot the difference then. But generally, if you're first off setting up, subcontracting is the best kind of way to get things going without having that regular commitment and higher costs.
Mm-hmm. And then in this awesome guide, as Tracy has put it, we talk about purchase terms. It might be that you as want to have your own set of purchase terms, so what you want to agree, or advising on the fact that you might accidentally sign up to somebody else's purchase terms. That's it in a nutshell, really, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. It kind of depends what you're working on. I mean, if you're generally selling services, there won't be this. But if you're maybe buying products and reselling them, or you need materials to do your work, so maybe you're a builder, you need to buy bricks, maybe you're editing products and you're then putting your brand on them and reselling them, things like that, then you're going to be buying things in and you want to make sure that the terms from those manufacturers, from those suppliers are favourable to you. Make sure that you're going to get the stuff when you want them, when you need them, to make sure that you're not in breach of those terms and conditions that we've talked through to start with.
Mm-hmm. Then the lovely word of GDPR, Data Protection Act 2018. We'll just put a section in there about GDPR, what your obligations are under any sort of relevant data protection legislation, whether you might need a data processing agreement if there is a lot of data going between two parties, privacy policy, GDPR policy, etc. All that boring stuff.
It still hasn't gone away, although obviously Brexit's happened, it still hasn't gone away, so it's still needed. Then I guess the last thing is when you're wanting to grow the business, how will you want to sort of expand? Maybe you just want to carry on employing people and make more sites, or maybe you want to go through a different route. Plenty of people go through and they get distributors, they get resellers on board, and they might be working under a white label way, or you might be maybe even franchising as well. We'll cover both of those kind of different ways of growing the business and what you need to cover in those.
Oh yeah, franchising or licensing. There's much of a muchness, really. I think with a franchise, you tend to sort of charge quite a big fee for like a big pop-up business, essentially. And then with the license agreement, you're sort of selling on the license to run under that brand and that idea and and all that jazz.
Business model, all
Yeah.
of that.
But yeah, we thought it'd be a nice way just to finish off the awesome guide, talking about, you know, potential growth, and what you might need if you are considering going that way.
There's different ways of doing it. As you say, you can. A lot of people, they might just set up a business, keep employing, and they might just have one side that grows. But to be able to sort of get that national growth or even that regional growth, you do need to kind of spread your wings a little bit. And so that's kind of different ways of being able to do that. Might even give you some ideas that you haven't thought of.
Cool.
So that's pretty much it. That's the guide in a nutshell. It'll be online available whenever Kerry's finished it.
Tracy needs to give me a date.
Maybe
a
it's
deadline.
a small business Christmas present.
That would be a good one, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Christmas present.
So yeah, if anyone has any questions or anything, you can obviously comment.
Or anything you think that might need to include. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Tracy will let me know.
cool. We'll see you soon maybe.
Oh, Chloe's liking. Awesome.
Cool.
Okay, thanks, Em.
Bye.
Am I finished now?